ASMR. Who? Merry Christmas. First of all, it's been a little bit of a while. I apologise for that. I had a busy month, basically. I moved recently, and so I just, had some stuff that I would wanted to do for the anniversary. That I just haven't got round to, so apologies for that. Although lovely to see the love on that Blake 7 unboxing video. I did not expect that to be quite as popular as it ended up being, and I'm enjoying this series. Blake 7, I've been going through it, but of course this is my reaction discussion about For Joy to the World, the Christmas special that we got. I'm hoping to get this out on Boxing Day, so yesterday. Normally I do these basically as soon as I watch the episode. Back in the spring and the summer when the series was coming out, of course I was watching those episodes. Of course we had the midnight premieres, and because of my work as well, at that time I was watching those episodes at sort of early hours, and then immediately doing my reactions. Of course, it was Christmas. Christmas Day is a little bit different. Of course, this episode aired quite early, aired at 5:10, and then Wallace and Gromit was on straight afterwards, the brand new Wallace and Gromit, and so of course I watched that as well, and I was spending time with family, so didn't want to immediately rush out and talk about the episode, and so yeah, it's been a good couple of hours. I've had time to sort of think about it and digest it. I watched Doctor Who Unleashed on this episode. I've not watched the little 8-minute behind the scenes video on the YouTube channel, but I've got a sense of some people's reactions, not loads, but enough beating around the bush. What did I think of Joy to the World? I didn't love it. I think it's been a while since the last episode, of course, and while my opinions on the series as it stands haven't really changed, I also haven't gone back to the series. I haven't rewatched it since it broadcast, basically, and I've been feeling like I should. I've been feeling like it's been enough time. I wasn't interested in rewatching it, sort of immediately after it finished, but now I'm like, maybe I'll go back to season 1 or series 14 or whatever we want to call it, because I enjoyed some of it, but not loads of it, and I had kind of high hopes for this episode. I kind of was feeling like I might enjoy it, and I didn't, basically, but I also didn't hate it, and I'm kind of, I feel like I'm stalling a little bit because I'm kind of struggling, even though I've had a few hours to think about it. I'm still not entirely sure what my thoughts are. It's definitely not anywhere near my favourite Christmas specials or anything like that. Do I prefer it to the Church on Ruby Road? I don't think I do, to be honest. But okay, let's dig into this a little bit. I thought the concept of the Time Hotel certainly has potential. I think the idea of something that would take so long to kind of grow and build and so they're going to drop it off right at an early point in time, and then pick it up at a much later point in time. And it would be ready. I think that's really interesting and a clever use of the concept of the time hotel. The character of Joy, I felt, was I feel underdeveloped. I don't feel like I really know the character that well at all. I think I definitely will need to rewatch this episode and sort of rethink how I feel about it. But yeah, I didn't get much. Nicola Coughlan was good, but I didn't get much from the character, I don't feel. There are also lots of things that we've seen before in Stephen Moffat scripts. Digital afterlives. We've seen so many times. I saw pointed out that's three Stephen Moffat episodes in a row where there have been digital afterlives. I mean, it sort of tracks that we're still dealing with Valengard, and that was something that it was established they do in Boom, and so I suppose I'm a little more forgiving of that in this story, but it is a Moffat trope. Okay, right, the two big things that I came away from this episode feeling like I kind of distinctly didn't like. One, I think, well, first one that's a little bit more trivial, I suppose. Jesus is real and in canon. Aside from the fact that it contradicts a line from Voyage of the Damned, where very, very slyly, when Kylie asks Astrid, as played by Kylie, asks what is Christmas all about, the Doctor says, there's some line, and he says, it's a long story. I should know. I took the last room. I got the last room. And I thought that was that's a funny line that you can take seriously or not. And of course this contradicts that, but that's not important. I just don't think that you should do that, really. I'm not a religious person, so it doesn't offend me in that sense. But especially after all the religious discussion about religion and faith that came from Moffat's previous episode, and obviously I know this was filmed over a year ago, but I think it's interesting that Moffat keeps doing things in relation to faith, and of course this is much more in relation to Christmas, but I just think it's a bit of a silly idea. I think it does kind of, it is a kind of a acceptance of Christianity as a true religion, as opposed to other religions, which I think is, I think Doctor Who should appeal to everyone, and this kind of therefore doesn't. It's also like, the time hotels lead to doors, locked doors in hotels, but this was just a cave. I thought it was a silly idea. And I don't think you should have done it. I was not surprised because I read the Empire review of this episode a couple days ago, and they mentioned about a baby being born thousands of years ago. And I was like, oh, okay, Jesus. I just had an inkling, so I wasn't surprised, but I think it's a bad idea. The other big thing that I'm coming away from this that I also think was a bad idea and that they shouldn't have done. And this is a much more tricky conversation. I don't think that it is a good idea to so unsubtly canonize the coronavirus pandemic. Again, aside from the contradictory fact of stories that came out, or television stories that came out 2020, 2021, that resoundingly ignored the pandemic. And of course, I think the first story that was properly post-pandemic, after the lockdowns and everything, was Revolution of the Daleks, which of course was filmed before the pandemic. But then you get Flux, which also makes no reference to it. It's not a thing that has happened in the Doctor Who universe. And I know it happened in some of the lockdown stuff that they made during that period, the little, shorts and short stories and stuff that got released. I know that, they kind of refer to it in that, but that's kind of ancillary. And again, the fact that it contradicts something else in the show, there's so many examples of that in Doctor Who. That's not really the point. But I just think that, I don't know, I just don't think that was the right call. I think that, because why, if the Doctor knows about that, why can't he stop it? Why doesn't he stop it? Why doesn't he tell his friends and warn people and try and help, It just seems, I think, for all the talk of Doctor Who being fun and Doctor Who being escapism, and these things that Russell has said about this era of the show, that to me kind of seems to fly in the face of that idea. And I know they don't say COVID, but you don't really have to read between the lines. And I think, if it had just been she died in hospital and I was obeying the rules, and we all know what you're talking about there, and I was like, okay, fine. But then when she goes on the rant, that is, the rant about the government and, the Conservative government at the time, and, refers to things like the partying and the drinking, and, while people stayed in their homes and followed the rules. I don't feel that to so explicitly talk about those things, I don't feel like Doctor Who is the place for that. And I, 100% agree with the sentiment. Absolutely. And I'm not someone who doesn't think that politics should be in Doctor Who, right? Because, of course, they should, and they always have been. But when you say Doctor Who's been political, you're talking about the fact that the Daleks are an allegory for the Nazis, but they're not acting, they're not the Nazis. The Slitheen are an allegory for, the New Labour government and the war on terror, and they caught, and that wasn't incredibly subtle either. But I don't know, and maybe had I watched that story at the age I am now, and lived through those events, I would have felt that was too on the nose as well. But I don't like that, and I don't think that kind of discussion about those topics, I don't feel like Doctor Who is the place for that, especially not at Christmas. I think that it might, I can imagine people who had that experience, and it really, I felt like, I'm a better phrase, touching a nerve with those people, and not in the sense that their relate to it, and they'll, you know, and they'll feel for the character necessarily, but they'll just be like, don't put this in your Doctor Who episode, don't trivialise it. And I don't think the episode is trivialising it, but I just feel it was a bad call, and I especially think why we had to go and see her mum die in hospital and reconnect with her as a star. That was a bad call in poor taste. Also, I also just like, why, if you're gonna do a scene where she talks to her mum on a Zoom call, make it look like a Zoom call and not professionally filmed video. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, no one's Zoom connection. Is that good? No one's lighting in camera setup. Is that good? I don't believe it. It doesn't feel genuine. That feels hollow, and it makes that element of Joy's backstory feel disingenuous and feel kind of tacky and tasteless, and also not the time to do a reference to Martha Jones and the Royal Hope Hospital. Like, guys, what are we doing here? That is just bad. I think that's bad. I thought it was interesting that Ncuti spent a year on Earth, and that was a big character thing for him, and he doesn't do it. I don't live, and I don't spend, I don't live one day after another in the right order, and I don't stay in one place, and I don't have a job, and I'm like, okay, but you did used to be the 14th Doctor, right? And the whole deal with that guy is that he is doing that, right? He is living that kind of a life. Like, that is the point. That's what he's doing, because he's healing, and he's getting over all his trauma. So, like, this shouldn't be that difficult for you, because you have done that quite recently, or you haven't. But then, why did you not have any of the baggage that he had? Incredible that over a year later, the bi-generation thing is there. We're still adding on things that complicate that. Just a weird, just like a good couple of scenes, and that character, Anita, my God, she's a lot of fun. Make her the companion. I think the worst things about those scenes is watching it going, yeah, but I know she's not going to be a companion. I mean, she should be. She's got great chemistry with Ncuti. There's a lovely relationship that forms between her and the Doctor. And of course she gets to go work at the Time Hotel. Did she want that? I didn't get the sense that was the kind of thing that she was interested in. Just a weird, yeah. Also, why did he have to stay in that room of that hotel when that wasn't the hotel that he was going to go back to the Time Hotel? He had to go to a different hotel in New York. So, like, why did he have to live in that hotel for a year? I don't really understand that. Why didn't he go live with the nobles or go to unit? Why did he not speak to Ruby? I actually don't know why he didn't speak to Ruby. I don't know why we needed Ruby in this story. If the Doctor's not gonna, why is she looking at the star? Why does she care? She doesn't know what's going on. And I thought, oh, maybe the Doctor is going to ring her and say hello. No, it's her mum. Which one? I don't know. Who cares? I've get so animated about this and annoyed about it. I apologise for that, because I was not, I didn't think I had that much to say about this episode, but it's all kind of coming back to me, and the more I think about it, the less I like it. Why did the episode not end? Why? Right, okay, so clear, maybe this is just me, but about halfway through the episode, I could picture the last scene in my head, right? And to me, the last scene of this episode is obviously the Doctor goes, we're in the TARDIS, and the Doctor's at the controls, and he's flying away, and he's on his own, but maybe he's going to speak to Ruby, and he twiddles a couple of buttons on the console, and then he goes and sits down in a chair, and he's got some chairs in the TARDIS. There was this whole thing about the fact he's got no chairs in the TARDIS, and this whole thing in the hotel, chair day, take a chair. He loves sitting down and being in the chairs. Clearly, the guy's gonna get some chairs for the TARDIS, right? No, I guess not. Looking at the trailer for the next series, which I'm not going to get into that particularly here. There was not loads. I thought it looked fine, but it's a very short teaser trailer. I don't have particular thoughts. The animation guy was cool, but other than that, there's not really anything to particularly go on. But from the shots of the TARDIS in that, it doesn't look like there's any chairs in it in the next series either. So what is the point? Like, if we're not, that to me seemed like such just a simple thing of like, it would be symbolic of the progression he made as a character in this story, that he got some chairs in the TARDIS, and he hasn't done that. And it's just kind of baffling to me, because that ending writes itself. That's so obvious to me, but no, we end on Jesus being real, which I think is silly. I thought the supporting characters in this were aside from Joy, aside from Anita, Anita was a much more interesting character to me than Joy, who was fine, but but the rest of the supporting cast, I felt like Joel Fry's character Trev, he was a bit of fun. I felt he was really channeling David Walliams' performance from the God Complex. Was that just me? But he was a bit of fun. The Silurian guy was so. Yeah, I don't know. I think I just I was underwhelmed by this story, and there are things about this era that continue to annoy me, that this episode is continuing to highlight. And I thought that it might be, the end of the last series was such a weird, and it's interesting because my initial reaction to Empire of Death was actually kind of positive. I'm not sure why. I think I must have gone in with quite low expectations, and in the moment felt that it was like, I didn't like it. I think, if I recall, I said I don't love it, but it's a clever script. It's not. But that then left kind of a sour taste in the mouth for the whole series, and I had hoped that this special would be a bit of a breath of fresh air, and it's not doing any of the series mysteries, but there are still problems from the series, and I think it's kind of fundamental characterization issues, stuff that has been talked about much more eloquently in much more detail by other people, but the points that I really agree with, and I don't really connect with this Doctor. I don't connect with Ruby necessarily. I think Millie Gibson's a great actor, but I don't love the character of Ruby. I a fantastic performer, but I just find this era that it just niggles me in the way that the previous era niggled a lot of other people. I'm struggling to get behind some things, and I think that this episode was it didn't. I wanted to just have a fun episode and enjoy it, and I have not come away with it. Come away from it with that, and I'm sad about that. And you've heard in real time me get sort of actively annoyed at not only things that I think the show shouldn't have done, just kind of, from my own sort of personal viewpoint, the COVID thing, the Jesus thing, but also I'm getting annoyed at things that the show isn't doing that I don't understand why it's not doing that. I don't understand why the Doctor, why we're taking this approach to the Doctor being this way, living normally, when we established that was what the 14th Doctor was doing and has been doing, and that was really good for him. Why then it's a weird thing for this Doctor? It just doesn't make sense. And yeah, and again, from a storytelling perspective, the fact that it doesn't conclude with the Doctor getting chairs in the TARDIS, to me, and maybe it's something or nothing, but it's just kind of baffling that you wouldn't do that. Also because this TARDIS is too big and too empty. And yeah, it does need chairs. It's great that you can recognise that, but what that means is that you should put some chairs in it. But, so those are my thoughts on Joy to the World, my kind of initial, most passionate thoughts about it. Let me know what you thought. Did you like it? Because I get the sense that some people will really like it and some people will really, really won't. I think this one could split opinion. And I can imagine lots of people really got along with this one. So let me know if you enjoyed it. I'm genuinely very interested to hear. I would love for other people to enjoy the show at the moment, because I'm not really doing, and that's sad, but yes, let me know your thoughts. But thank you for watching, thank you for your time, and I hope you had a very Merry Christmas. I hope you enjoyed Wallace and Gromit. I certainly did, probably more than Doctor Who. And yes, I hope you are having a good time, a good festive period. This is probably going to be it from me until the new year, and then we'll see. I'd like to do another recap of the year like I did at the start of this year for last year, but I don't know when I get that out. That took quite a while last time, but I'd like to do that again. Yeah, I'll keep doing stuff in the new year. I might revisit the previous series in the new year and do a kind of somewhat of a retrospective, or I don't know. Obviously we've got season 7, the collection, coming at some point next year. There is a new season, of course. I'll be covering that as it releases. But yes, Merry Christmas. Have a wonderful new year. Please do like this video, of course, if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't. Thank you very much for your time. I think it's been a decent year for this channel, and I want to continue. I kind of lost a bit of momentum at the end there, but I want to kind of pick things back up a little bit. because, this is one of the ways that I am maintaining my fandom, despite the show in its current form not really being for me. It's a great thing to have. So yeah, I will see you all in the new year. Thank you, and bye-bye.